little signature move there, the go away. Countdown to restoration with who? Your host. And who is he? He's me, Danny Thompson. And I am glad to be with you for episode 5. And I would like to say thank you to those of you who are watching. And yesterday was a record day. My wife and son think it's because of one factor. So we will see if that works. I think it's because of the expert analysis, etc. But they think it's because of this amazing poster that happened to be the thumbnail for the broadcast. So if that's it, we're putting this up every week. Matter of fact, I'll double it and put up 2 or 3. I'll put the whole screen on it. But anyway, so let me know, why did you watch? Was it because of the poster? Well, then we will have 30 minutes of poster. Anyway, what else do we have today? Yes, let's start with our good friend Dr. Rachel Levin. Yes, I hope he is on your prayer list, because he is the poster child for the Biden administration, which we call the Biden regime, because it is there illegally. When you lose, you're not supposed to take charge, except in this new government of equity, which we're going to talk about today, because it's not about equality, it's about equity. And so we must be equitable to Dr. Rachel Levin. Anyway, I knew you were waiting to see him today. He's our most popular feature. What else do we have here? Oh, a little thing from Rudy Giuliani, America's mayor. Probably, my opinion, when he ran for president, I thought he would have been a great president, but they said too much baggage. Well, what did he say? Joe Biden once said that excessive reliance on executive orders and ignoring the legislature is dictatorial. Well, Joe, are you aware that it now applies to you? No, because that's what he's wanting to do, Rudy. He wants to be the dictator. That's all they've got. We're going to talk about that later, much later. Where else are we? Oh, the doomsday clock. Yes, the doomsday clock stays at closest point to midnight. Funny little story. When President Trump was voted in 2016, my wife and I were in Dallas, and at the time we lived in the little Texas city of Abilene. I know you know the song, Abilene, Abilene. Well, that's not written about that Abilene. But anyway, and we were in Dallas instead. And we were privileged to sit next to some very liberal people. And right after Trump was voted in, they did what the doomsday clock people, which is not a government function, it's not even a real clock. People get to move the hands. They moved it very near midnight. Because with Trump in, the whole world was about to go up. The president, who didn't start a war, was going to blow up the whole world. And these people were next to it, and would sit next to us in the restaurant, and the one person was saying, and they've moved the doomsday clock. It's the closest we've ever been to destruction. And we were having a good time. In fact, when we left, I told him, I said, thank you. Where we live, you don't get to hear the liberal viewpoint any. So thank you. We enjoyed hearing it. He was like, oh, thank you. And he was like, no, that wasn't really the meaning, but made him happy. So with Commander Biden in, who is what? He is the thief in chief. Oh, he loves it every time. The thief in chief. Yes, with the thief in chief in, the doomsday clock has not moved one iota. We are still on the edge of destruction, which reminds me of a 60s song entitled On the Edge of Destruction. So, we're on the edge of destruction. If you're from the 60s or have listened to that, you'll know what I'm saying is true. Okay, a few things we've got to get to before we get into our main topic today. The Senate just voted, a tweet from Rand Paul. Let's see if we can get it. The Senate just voted On my constitutional point of order, 45 senators agreed that this sham of a trial is unconstitutional. Speaking of the impeachment, of course, that is more than will be needed to acquit and to eventually end this partisan impeachment process. This trial is dead on arrival in the Senate. And so if all things continue as should, then it's over. It's just going to waste time. And why are we putting up the esteemed Patrick Leahy again? Because we have Patrick Leahy News, the man who, instead of the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, John Roberts, will be presiding over, a Democrat, presiding over the impeachment of a Republican, as far as they're concerned, former president. Or do they really think that? I think they think he's the current president, and they got to make sure he doesn't come back. That's my thought. That's why they're still having it. Yeah, you know it is. Okay, it's not about 2024. It's about now. What happened? Just a little while after he was sworn in, the esteemed Senator Patrick Leahy, he was sworn in, he got sick. They had to take him to the hospital out of an abundance of caution. Man, don't do it, Pat. You're too old. Save your life. Resign now. Okay, it's my public service message of the day. I tried to help him. Is he going to listen? Probably not. But I thought, you know what? We need to get all of these very aged and wonderful politicians together and find out their secrets for a long life. I bet part of it's a government health plan that you and I can't get because they get better health plans than most governments do. But anyway, just think of this. You have all these people who are, They're 80 and more. And they're still showing up for work every day. We need their secret. Maybe they're robots. My wife and I heard a preacher one time. I can't remember who it is. I've been trying to. He didn't say robot. He would say robot. So maybe they're robots. I don't know. But we should find out because they just keep on going. All right. Off of that. We did the doomsday clock. We did that. We did the esteemed Senator Leahy. Let's do our secular Democrat.org. Get it up big because I tell you, this is getting more and more obvious as we go along. SecularDems.org. What is their goal in life? What are they doing to the American people? I'm getting me bigger, not the thing. Restoring constitutional secularism and patriotic pluralism in the White House. As we showed yesterday, it's neither constitutional and it certainly isn't very patriotic. Oh, gods or no, God bless America, land that I love. All 400 million of you stand beside her and... Oh, wait a minute, can't say her. Stand beside it and guide it. Is it a derogatory term? Is America he or she? I don't know. Tune in next time. No, I don't know what's going on. But anyway, that's what they want to do. You need to read this 28-page manifesto because the government is being run by those thoughts. You say, where is all this coming from? Well, from demented minds serving you. And I'm trying to have a good time now before we get into the main part of the show because it's going to be flat out depressing. Yes, it's going to be bad. To cheer me up, I went and hung out with alley cats or something. I'm telling you, it's pretty bad. It's... I mean, compared to this, A River Runs Through It is a happy show. You ever seen that one? I don't know why. It just crossed my mind. It always makes me sad. River runs through it. Why? It's because it's got people in it who won't do right. You know, it just never stops. Here's the briefing room again. You can find out all the information you need. Whitehouse.gov, briefing room. Let's get this up. And there's stuff on here. Some of it we're going to have to, what was happening today, we're going to have to look at tomorrow, okay? So, just don't have time because we have to get into some serious stuff. I don't know. Where are we going? What are we doing? What is this? Oh, our definition of equality, which is very small. The quality or state of being equal. That's not much of a definition for a really, well, it's a small word, but it has large meaning. Equality. All men and women and those in between are created equal. Okay? Equal. With equal opportunity. With liberty and justice for all. I know we failed at it. We keep hearing it. I know the nation's never been perfect. Who is? But equality, isn't that the goal we should be stretching for? Isn't that what America was founded on? Come here, and yeah, you may have to work your rear end off, but you got a chance to get ahead. Or maybe you can just develop a social media platform and become wealthy overnight. Whatever, who cares? You can do it here. You can make a living. You can eat better than you did in your country. High standard of living in the world. Well, except for Sweden, maybe. I haven't checked but I'm talking about over most of the world. And Sweden, well, we'll talk about Sweden another day. What's their biggest import? The Volvo and used to be ABBA. Anyway. All right. How is Sweden's standard of living impacting the rest of the world? We'll move you over here, but we have what to bring out? The definition of equity. Not that many more letters in the word equity, but there's a lot more definition to it. All right, we're going to get it big. Bigger than that because it is a big word now. A system of law originating in the English Chancery and comprising a settled informal body of legal and procedural rules and doctrines that supplement, aid, or override common and statute law and are designed to protect rights and enforce duties fixed by substantive law. Substantive law. Now what's this saying? Equity requires an overriding of current laws, and it definitely requires an overriding of equality. And equity versus equality. Equality is the bigger word, so this should be the more important one, right? Yeah. Obviously, I know how many letters are in a word. Don't matter because insignificant has a lot of letters, and it's what? Insignificant. So, anyway, I know, I'm telling you, I've been looking at all this stuff all day, and I need a release. So, you get to hear my very bad humor. All right, so what else do we have? Trial or remedial justice or by the rules and doctrines of equity. By the rules and doctrine. Did you know there is a doctrine of equity? A body of legal doctrines and rules developed to enlarge, supplement, or override a narrow, rigid system. Equality is a narrow, rigid system. Hey, how about that? We're that didn't expect me over here, did you? Yeah, equality is a narrow, rigid system. So we must have equity. Why is this important? Because yesterday the administration let us know it's not about equality, it's about equity. So, can you imagine being on Sesame Street? E is for equity. Yeah, all right. So we got to move on because I'm already taking too much time because even though it is important and we need to go over it all, I've seen these two enough and I'm delaying seeing them again. All right, but where are we at? So we did that and that. Let's look at this. What is this? This day in history, not this day, but it was July 2nd. This day in history, on July 2nd, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I was born in 1961, which was a great year. At least, I think so. So they signed the Civil Rights Act in 1964. I am going to be 60 this year. Where did the time go? The Civil Rights Act is only what? 3 years younger than me. So for this July 2nd, we've been working on it that long. And we still, I meant to look, and I will look it up tomorrow. I'm sorry, how much money the federal government has spent to make us all equal. And I bet it's more than enough to have made us all very rich. But as anybody knows, if we all suddenly had $1 million, guess how much bread's going to cost? Yeah. Well, we don't all know that, just a few of us. But we've been working on this forever. And we keep getting worse. We keep getting told how much worse it is. It was getting better before Obama came in. And what did he do? We can't have all this civil rights unity. We can't have people getting along. That's not good for us. They'll all turn Republican. They'll all start seeing through us. So let's create trouble. And they kept looking for trouble and looking for it, and they finally found it. And then, of course, Trump got voted in. President Donald J. Trump got voted in, and then they could lay everything on. Everything about him was racist, except there's nothing about him racist. And we have to keep working harder and harder. So remember, this must be a losing cause, because we've been doing it a long time, trying at it, working at it, and we haven't got any closer according to the experts. What's the only thing we've done? Make people worse off, because that's what happens, boys and girls, when government gets in charge of making people better off. All right, so enough of that. Where else are we going? Dun, 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 dun. What is this? What is this? The impossible success of a criminal justice reform bill under Trump. Now, I don't think we have anything. I'm not sure any of our clips mention this, so I'm putting it up here. Remember, when Joe Biden was in Senate, their criminal reform bill made it tougher on people of color. But who worked on its reform to help mainly people of color? The very racist president and still current champ, Donald J. Trump. Now then, if I were a racist, would I work to get people of color out of prison? No, I'd be working to get them in. But anyway, remember that, and we'll be showing you some other things that did happen under President Donald J. Trump. And where are we going? We're going. Oh, yes, to the esteemed Susan Rice. All right, let's just get her nice and big so you can see her yesterday as she is announcing the advance of racial equity. All right, wait a minute.
Systemic racism and inequality in our economy, laws and institutions still put the American dream far out of reach. Today, the average black family has just 1/10 the wealth of the average white family, while the gap between white and black in home ownership is now larger than it was in 1960. These long-standing inequities are compounded by the converging crises we face as a nation. Americans of color are being infected by and dying from COVID-19 at higher rates. 1 in 10 Black Americans and 1 in 11 Latino workers are currently unemployed. By some estimates, 40% of Black-owned businesses have been forced to close for good during the COVID crisis. Black and Latino families with children are twice as likely to be experiencing food insecurity during the pandemic as white families. And Black and Latino Americans are 2.8 times more likely to die of COVID-19. And for Native communities across the country, the overlapping economic and health crises have devastated tribal economies and healthcare systems. These are desperate times for so many Americans, and all Americans need urgent federal action to meet this moment. Today, President Biden will deliver a national address on his plans to advance racial justice and equity, starting with an equitable and inclusive recovery. President Biden will renew the federal government's commitment to making the American dream real for families across the nation by taking ambitious steps to redress inequality in our economy and expand opportunity for communities that have been.
All right, so we have that. Now, did you notice a few key pieces there? Number one, she is admitting that Black ownership of homes was higher before the 1964 Civil Rights Act, when the government started trying to help people of color. Yes. So, in all of these years, almost 57 years of what? Government helping people of color achieve equality and even, yes, dare we say, equity. The housing gap between white and black has gone up, and it's larger now than it was in 1960, when people were just living on their own. Now, were there things that needed to take place? Yes. But not all this government help. I mean, just right there. And also said 40% of Black-owned businesses have closed because of the pandemic. Why did they close? Because governors were shutting the states down. It's not because they're black. It's how many white businesses closed. It's not because, during the pandemic, we're not going to buy from black people. We're just only going to buy from white people. No, you would have gone to any store or business that was open. You didn't care what color they were. I'm not buying from there. There's black people in there. What kind of idiot are you? There was nothing open. So yeah, 40% closed. Why? The government made them close. But they make it sound like what? It's a racist world out there because of systemic racism. It's built into the system. White people don't shop at black people's stores. Well, what happened to the black people? Why didn't they keep shopping at black people's stores? When's the last time you walked into an all-white Walmart? I'd like to know. And see, when we talk about it, sounds like, you're racist. No, they're the racist. Systemic racism, they're saying it's built in. You can't get away from it. In any land that's shooting for equality, it's racist. And what we're going to see, President Biden later is going to just blow your mind. Telling you. All right. Got to get back to things. I could just stay there for a day or two. All right. So, unemployment. Let's look at this little tidbit. Wrong slide. First, where is it? Yes. From MSNBC, back in the day when the rightful occupant of the White House was in it, CNBC, Black and Hispanic employment is at a record low. This was published on Friday, October 4th, 2019, before we all turned racist and stopped shopping at black-owned stores because of the pandemic. Not our fault, the pandemic started, but we took it out on minority store owners. Yes. I'm telling you, we would have went anywhere. We could have found some Clorox wiping cloths or Lysol. Yes, we didn't care what color the hand was that took our money. We would have bought Lysol from them. So that was then. CNBC reported key points. The jobless rate for Hispanics hit a record low of 3.9 in September, while African Americans maintained its lowest rate ever, 5.5%. The unemployment rate for Asian Americans was 2.5 in September. The jobless rate for adult women came in at 3.1. I've got other things on it, but I don't have time today. Just have to take the highlights. You don't believe me? You can look it up the same as I did. They just keep talking. And you know what? I went and I looked for a racial breakdown of unemployment. And the latest from the U.S. Department of Labor, the latest statistics I could find were from what year? 2016. Yeah, a little bit behind, but hey, they're going to throw them at us anyway, aren't they? This is how it is. Oh, never mind, there was a pandemic. Never mind, it was up real high and all of that. Never mind all of that. Anyway, let us keep going. And we have a knock on the door. I'm probably getting too loud.
His economic plans make historic investments in underserved communities and put equity at the heart of our recovery. His ambitious agenda builds on a legacy of Americans forging opportunity out of crisis. These aren't feel-good policies. The evidence is clear. Investing in equity is good for economic growth, and it creates jobs.
Yes, investing in equity is good for economic growth. Why equity? Because we must do what? We must raise one over the other to make things equal. Okay, so I guess I wasn't being complained about. I should be. You should always complain about me. But let's see what this is. New report shows opportunity zones on track to lift 1 million Americans out of poverty. Poverty rate to be reduced by 11% in opportunity zones through billions in investment and new job opportunities. That was under whom? The President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Because the opportunity zones make things equal and people can rise out of poverty, not equity. Oh, let's go back to the wonderful, we should call her Benghazi Rice.
Investing in equity is good for economic growth, and it creates jobs for all Americans. Economists have estimated that the U.S. economy has lost a staggering $16 trillion over the last 20 years because of discrimination against families of color. If we closed racial gaps in income and opportunity, these same economists have estimated we could add $5 trillion to the U.S. economy over the next 5 years and add over 6 million new jobs for all Americans. So building a more equitable economy is essential if Americans are going to compete and thrive in the 21st century. We've hit the ground running to embed equity throughout the administration. On day one, the president signed an executive order directing an unprecedented whole-of-government initiative to embed racial equity across federal policies, programs, and institutions. That starts
now. All right. So, to lift people up, there has to be equity because it wasn't happening. I mean, we didn't have the fastest growing, most productive, greatest economy in the world before we discovered equity. Yeah. I mean, just go back and look at the facts and figures. What pulled more people out of poverty? Opportunity, not handouts. Now they're talking, and you can watch the whole, it's from her press briefing yesterday. Watch the whole thing, how many people they expect to be lifted out of poverty. And look at the American Rescue Plan. Look it up, you can find it online. and just see how much of it is government handouts to money. I mean, they're going because of the pandemic. I'm not just talking about supplemental checks. I mean, this thing is enormous, and that's going to lift people out of poverty. No, it's not. It has never worked. It doesn't work. What works is opportunity. You know, it's just... Anyway, all right, let's keep going on as we leave Benghazi, Susan Benghazi Rice, or should we call her Susan Muslim Video Rice. Let's go to the thief in chief, President Pretend Joseph Biden. Yeah, we should just keep him small. It would help you, I know,
But you know, does anyone in this whole nation think we're not all better off if that were to happen? Just imagine if instead of denying millions of Americans the ability to own a home and build generational wealth, we made it possible for them to buy a home, their first home, and begin to build equity to provide for their families and send their children off to school. Does anyone doubt that the whole nation would be better off? Just imagine. Instead of denying...
All right, I don't know what happened there. Excuse me. I'm figuring out editing and stuff as I go. But anyway, no, nobody would deny that. But do you remember what happened? Oh, how long ago was it? Who was the president then? President George W. Bush, that big housing collapse because of credit default swaps and such things as that. What had happened under Bill Clinton, under President George W. Bush, the pretend Republican, pretend conservative? They wanted more poor people and more illegal immigrants to be able to buy houses. So they made it so not you, not me, probably not you, could go into places and borrow money for houses, get housing loans without even having an ID. And what happened? So many people were able to get homes without hardly any down payment, without any ability to repay. The whole market, matter of fact, almost the whole world economy crashed. And they want to go back to that. They blamed it on George Bush. It started under Bill Clinton. Bush just carried it on because it is a great idea. Everybody should be able to own a home if they want to. But you know what? There's more to it than that. And how are they going? They're just going to have to give them away. Well, then somebody's got to make payments. Of course, if you're renting, you don't have to make any payments till September. If you don't want to, they can't throw you out. So it's better to rent. No wonder home ownership is down. I wonder if you could rent from yourself and then charge yourself rent and not pay it, because if the American, what was that called? The American Rescue Plan comes in fact, there's going to be some help for landlords to help make ends meet. Okay? I mean, come on. Maybe you could get a stimulus check plus land. But anyway, we'll work on that later. All right, let's keep going on. Mr. Biden, the thief in chief. Rock him a little bit there. And you know what? He's looking so tired. Bless his stealing thief heart.
Housing, for example. Housing is a right in America, and home ownership is an essential tool to wealth creation and to be passed down to generations. Today, I'm directing the Department of Housing and Urban Affairs and Urban Development to redress the historical racism in federal housing policies. Today, I'm directing...
Yes, today, to redress historical racism in federal housing policies? HUD largely serves the minority community. What are they even talking about? And housing now, to own a house is a right. It is a right, And I believe since it's not in the Constitution, should be protected as much as Democrats protect the right to health care and the right to abortion, which none of them are in the Constitution. So it's not really a right. And yeah, I agree. Everybody should have a house. Everybody should have a place to live if they want it. But look what they're doing. See, it's about equity. You know that I don't care if they're black or white. If they're making a certain amount of money, nobody's going to help them. And they've got to come. You know, there's people that make good money, but for whatever reason, they can't save the money to buy a home and this and that, and they work hard. But they don't qualify for equity. Come on, people. As the thief in chief would say, come on, man. I mean, yeah, it sounds good, but it doesn't work that way. Let's do another one. I mean, guy's just what? He's, and it's not him. I mean, I think he believes this, but it's the people above him.
Be better off? Just imagine if more incredibly creative and innovative, how much more creative and innovative we'd be if this nation held the historic black colleges and universities to the same opportunities and minority-serving institutions that had the same funding and resources of public universities to compete for jobs and industries of the future. You know, just ask the first HBCU graduate elected as vice president if that's not true. But to do this, I believe this nation and this government need to change their whole approach to the issue of racial equity. Yes, we need criminal justice reform, but that isn't nearly enough. We need to open the promise of America to every American. And that means we need to make the issue of racial equity not just an issue for any one department of government. It has to be the business of the whole of government.
Yes, the business of racial equity, not equality. Very, very important. Well, this guy has an idea how to start with it, Mr. President. Pretend. This professor suggests there are too many white people in college sports. Yes. Too many white people in college sports. We need to get rid of them. We need to, see, that's how you do equity. Oh, we've got too many white people here. Move them out. Move in more black people, more Hispanics. And that's okay, because I think I'm going to have to go back to that one clip. We're all thugs and white supremacists anyway. And again, this isn't about race. But you know, I don't want people of color treated any different but because they're not white. I mean, my goodness, we've got one grandson who's half Mexican, another one who's a quarter Mexican. I mean, we're not. I grew up with a Mexican family down the street. They were our best friends. Went to school. I really didn't know very many black people until junior high because of where we lived. I know it was a systemic racism. Made friends with them. They were, you know, they like me. I like them. Still today. We're not this horrible racist country. This isn't about not wanting to help people of color or race. This is about true equality. That's how you help people. And the government is saying we're about equity. We're about balancing out equality because there's some people, they've had it too equal. And yeah, there's, I mean, come on. There's not black people who favor black people. There's white people who favor white people, Hispanics who, you know, my brother is an electrical contractor in the Dallas area. And one job he was at, they would turn white people away if they couldn't speak Spanish, because said you won't even be able to communicate with the rest of the workers. Yeah. So that wasn't very equitable toward him, was it? But you know, the poor white guy, they don't want his bills paid. No, oh, you're white, it's okay. You see what happens? It doesn't just hurt color. It hurts everyone. This isn't about racism. I don't care. It doesn't bother me that there is a woman, other than she's there illegally, a woman pretend vice president who is multi-ethnic. I don't care. It didn't bother me that Barack Obama was black. Who cares? The country voted him in. It was his policies. Equity means that nothing is going to be fair. And people say, well, it hasn't been fair for years, but how are you ever going to get it there? When does it stop? And that's what they're all about. All right, but he talked about black colleges. Trump signs bill restoring funding for black colleges, and under him they actually got some ways to fund black colleges. And pretend President Biden said, if we can just find ways to fund historically black colleges and universities the way white ones are, well, there is an historic black university in Texas. It's not too far from Houston, kind of between Houston and Brenham, Texas, called Prairie View A&M. Ever heard of Texas A&M? It's part of that state school, and it gets funded, and they still keep it historically black. And there's lots of black colleges that get funding. And do some probably need more? Yes, but I'm telling you, not everything they talk about is true. They get up there and you get a picture that's not true because they don't want to give you a true picture. I mean, it's just sad. It's beyond sad because when you start removing equality, you hurt everyone. All right.
It's time to act now, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because if we do, we'll all be better off for it. For too long, we've allowed a narrow, cramped view of the promise of this nation to fester. We've bought the view that America is a zero-sum game in many cases. If you succeed, I fail. If you get ahead, I fall behind. If you get the job, I lose mine. Maybe worst of all, if I hold you down, I lift myself up. We've lost sight of what President Kennedy told us when he said, a rising tide lifts all boats. And when we lift each other up, we're all lifted up. And the corollary is true as well. When any one of us is held down, we're all held back. More and more economic studies in recent years have proven this. But I don't think you need economic studies to...
No, neither do I, because no economic study has proven any of that. Where are these economic studies? Did you hear what he said? Who thinks like that except people in politics? What he was describing is politics. I win, you lose. Of course, sports. But who thinks like this? What did he say? I mean, we have it in his remarks. They're so helpful to us. We have never fully lived up to the founding principles of this nation. To state the obvious, that all people are created equal and have a right to be treated equally. Well, we're not doing that. We're treating them equitable throughout their lives. And it's time to act now, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because if we do, we'll all be better off for it. I mean, listen to this. Who thinks like this? The left, the liberals, the progressives. But for too long, we've allowed a narrow, cramped view of the promise of this nation to fester. We've, it's not me, it's him, bought the view that America is a zero-sum game in many cases. If you succeed, I fail. If you get ahead, I fall behind. If you get the job, I lose mine. What? Maybe, well, yeah. Where does that happen? When they bring in workers from overseas on HB-N1 visas, is that right? Or is that the swine flu? I'm not sure. But anyway, whatever they call them. And American employees have to train their replacements. That happened in California. It happens all over. Yeah, that's bad. And if they don't train their replacement, they don't get their severance package. Yeah, and why? Because these people come in and work for free. Well, not for free, but for much cheaper. I don't blame the people coming in. It's the people that let them. Anyway, back to where we were. If you succeed, I fail. If you get ahead, I fall behind. If you get the job, I lose mine. Maybe worst of all, if I hold you down, I lift myself up. Who thinks like that? I've lived in this country all my life. I've never heard that before, except in sports and in politics. I mean, obviously, probably there's some. I mean, they can only hire so many people, but I had a business. I didn't hire one and say, I hired somebody else. One of you have to go. I mean, who thinks like this, Joe? Come on. He's got a speech where nobody lives like this. But see, they tell us we do, and people believe it because there's people that think, oh yeah, because someone has $1 million, they must have taken money from me. There's all kinds of reporting now. Oh, during the pandemic, the richer people got richer while the poor got poorer. That's the way it works, people. It's just called economics. They didn't take money from us. The government ruined us. We've lost sight of what President Kennedy told us when he said a rising tide lifts all boats. He was not talking about equity. He was talking about taxes, etc. And when we lift each other up, we're all lifted up. Kumbaya, my Lord. Kumbaya. Okay. Anyway, everybody wipe the tears out of your eyes. You know, and the corollary is true as well. When any one of us is held down, we're all held back. And you know, I believe in picking up my brother. He ain't heavy. He's my brother. I believe in if he's not too heavy. I've seen some of my brothers I'm not trying to pick up. But anyway, I'm just trying to keep my sanity here. You know, you want to help people up. You don't want anybody held back. But you don't do it by telling some people equity is you take 2 steps back and we're going to bring them 3 steps forward. More and more economic studies in recent years have proven this. I would like to see one. You know, I would like to see the economic studies that prove everything they're saying. All right, I've got to go back to this one because it was really good.
But you know, does anyone in this whole nation think we're not all better off with generational wealth? We made it possible for them to buy a home, their first home, and begin to build equity to provide for their families. And does anyone doubt that the whole nation would be better off? Just imagine, instead of denying.
Well, I guess I didn't get the clip that I wanted, and I am sorry about that. Let's see if I have it. There is one where he's talking about all of us being thugs and you know everything else, and I don't have it, and I am sorry. And that's why we have to do it also to root out white supremacy. You know, because we're all white supremacists. If you're not a person of color, you're a white supremacist. And I don't have the clip. I'm sorry. I thought I got them all. Or did he say where you know 40% of our frontline workers are people of color and immigrants again, and they're on the edge. You know, that's not bad when 40% of frontline workers are still keeping their jobs, and they're people of color, right? See, it's anything you can say. There's a lot of frontline doctors of different color, nurses of different color. Not every person of different color, Mr. Pretend President, makes $2 an hour or minimum wage. Anyway, we're getting along. I think you see my point. I hope you do. If not, go back. You can listen to all his remarks. I'll try to find that clip for you that talks about us, you know, why they have to do it now because of all the white supremacy and everything else. Just a couple more minutes. and we will have our exclusive God formation. Yes, there it is. All right. So now you can go away. Everything go away. This is sad. There's things you learn. It's just not happy. The Bidens have asked those who are running the show for help. They are being pushed too much, and they just have to keep going. It's too much for Joe. It's overwhelming him. It's too hard of a schedule. But they're being pushed. Why are they being pushed? Because those in charge know they're afraid they just have this short time. They are afraid that they're going to be found out. They've heard the rumblings, and they know how big of a heist they pulled off. And they're afraid, so it's easier to do than it is to undo. And we know that they will meet President Trump when he gets back to office with one lawsuit after another for trying to overturn everything an illegal president did. So that's what's going on behind the scenes. And they just keep pushing and telling Joe, well, you knew when you came in what you had to do. So anyway, that's the show for today. I hope you've learned a few things. I'm sorry about some of the technical things we didn't handle very well. But remember, equity is not what this country was built on. Equality. The right, read the Declaration of Independence. The pursuit of happiness. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Not everybody getting the same. And government messed up black housing. Now they're going to fix it. They've been trying to fix it for 57 years. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to call on God and ask Him to help America, because these in charge, they want to destroy America. And every time they do this, it sounds like they're going to lift up the people of color, and they end up pushing them down. But as our heroine Scarlett O'Hara used to say, tomorrow is another day. God bless you. God bless America. I'm so glad you were here with us today. Tell somebody about the show. Tell somebody, even if you just want to make fun of us, at least they'll watch it, right? We're not too hard to please around here. But we thank you for joining us. And if I can get everything done here. All right. And for some reason, nothing's working. All right. So thank you for joining us on Countdown to Restoration. The time counting down to the day when Joe Biden is out of office and the rightful president of these United States, President Donald J. Trump, is back in office. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow.